Nisambul Vinaka and welcome to Suva. My name is Peter Thomson. I am the Secretary General of the United Nations Special Envoy for the Ocean. As such, my job is to go around the world advocating for the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14, the ocean's goal of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. You know, it's so nice to be talking to you in Suva, because when I think about my childhood there, mangroves are a big part of it. In those days, Nasese Creek, or Leveti Creek as some call it, was a big mangrove forest. And we sailed through it in our tin boats after school and on the weekends. It was our playground. And so I'm very aware about the life that exists in a mangrove forest, the diversity of it, the incredible beauty of it all, the tidal nature, the adventure of a mangrove forest is something very special in this world. Sadly, that mangrove forest has succumbed to urban development on the banks of Nasese Creek. But I'm also very pleased to be talking to you today because this is in effect one of the first meetings, I think, of the Community of Ocean Action on Mangroves, something which I was involved in setting up in New York at the United Nations. So it gives me great pleasure to talk to you today. So while I'm commending the usefulness of today's gathering, let me also applaud IUCN for organizing this gathering. There are some very relevant initiatives going on around the world, which I think are going to be reflected in today's workshop. And while I'm applauding people, let me also applaud the Pacific Mangroves Initiative, which I know is active in Oceania, and the Mangroves for the Future, which is active in Asia. Of course, there's also the working globally, the Global Mangrove Alliance and the Blue Carbon Initiative. More power to you all in the work you're doing to save mangroves. The Community of Ocean Action on Mangroves, I mentioned to you that this is now in existence. There are 8 other communities of ocean action. They were formed at the United Nations and are supported by the United Nations Secretariat at the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. And these communities of ocean action are driving forward the 1,400 voluntary commitments that were made at the UN Ocean Conference last June in New York. They're driving them forward through implementation. And I do ask that you go to the oceanconference.un.org website to learn more about them. In the case of the Community of Ocean Action on Mangroves, you're in very good hands. The co-facilitators of this community are the IUCN and the Ramsar Secretariat. So get involved in them. You are people who care about mangroves, so get involved in this Community of Ocean Action on Mangroves and help the existing voluntary commitments get implemented and foster new ones. And you will be, by the time we get to the expected second UN conference in 2020, you will be the bedrock on which we will be assessing successes, failures, and making the adjustments necessary to take mangroves forward into the last 10 years of the SDG 14's implementation. So we get to 2030 with our mangrove forests intact. You know, I was in Maduata in January up in northern Fiji with the Prime Minister of Fiji and Eric Solheim, the head of UN Environment. And we were with Tui Maduata, and it was such a great day. We were launching the International Year of the Reef. And the Prime Minister announced that the great sea reef, the Banivoliku, off the coast of Maduata, and that marine area was being put up for the Ramsar Convention. And there could be no better site in my mind than that. Why do I say that? I used to be district officer of Maduata back in the 1970s, and I know that we have up there what Justin Hunter called a bunker of biodiversity. Justin and I were there in January looking out at that vast coastline of mangroves, that huge coral reef running along the full coastline of Madawata, and we said, this really is a bunker of biodiversity. So my message is protect the mangroves, help restore them, and they will repay us in our work to take the necessary adaptation to climate change and to ocean change. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the years of implementation. We have our plan, the SDG 14 and the Paris Climate Agreement. We must implement now. Enough with the talk. So you have this workshop, and I know that you're going to learn and contribute to each other, and I know that you're going to go away and start implementing. And I really look forward to reading about that implementation on the website, oceanconference.un.org, where the Community of Ocean Action on Mangroves has its home, and where I'm sure I'll not only read about this workshop, but that I will read about the good works that you're doing in your communities and in your countries to save, to conserve, and to sustainably use the resources of the mangrove forests of this planet. I thank you and wish you a successful workshop. Bina Wallivu.